Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper and today I'll be ranking all of the Zelda companions from worst to best. Now, with the Zelda companions you get in the variety of Zelda games, they all have their own they all have their unique personalities, and they all help Link traverse the lands that he finds himself in, whether that's Hyrule or the Sky or Flooded Hyrule or whichever game Link find himself in, or with Echoes of Wisdom when you're playing as Zelda with Tree. And yeah, this video is just going to be me ranking all of the companions that you get to interact with, from my least favorite all the way up to my favorite. So yeah, so for number 10 is Navi. Now, I would say Navi is not a huge surprise. Navi is quite the annoying character. I think in terms of the plot, she's not really that useful. I think she's only useful during the very first part of the game, like literally the first dungeon, because she's there to get Link and get him to talk to the Deku Tree, and that is it. After that, she's pretty much useless, and yeah, in terms of story, she's really annoying. I'm not a huge fan of Navi, and yeah, I think there are some parts where she is useful, like she'll give Link hints to certain things, like going to the Goron area or the Gerudo area or the Zora area or any of the areas that you might go to when it comes to the dungeons. But overall, she barely does anything, and yeah, she's really annoying. So yeah, for number 9 is the King of Fed Lions. Now, the King of Fed Lions is, I would say, a useful kind of companion. He does help you get from island to island throughout the game. I just think, similar to Navi, I think it's just because with the King of Fed Lions, he's just not that useful in a lot of moments, because a lot of the time you will be exploring each island that you visit, and his only purpose is to get you from island to island, and similar to other characters or other companions, he does help you experience the world a lot more by giving you different bits of lore to some of the islands, like with how he does his speech on Ganondorf, where he talks about how Ganondorf broke from his seal, that sort of thing. I just think, for me personally, he's not. He is memorable, but like to me, he's not as memorable as some of the other companions in this video. So yeah, for number 8 is Tattle. Now, Tattle is your companion throughout Majora's Mask, and I think Tattle is a less annoying Navi, because with Tattle, there are stakes with her, because her brother is with Skull Kid, who wants to bring down the moon in 3 days, because Skull Kid's been influenced by Majora's Mask. So at least there are stakes with Tattle, and it makes you want to try and help her throughout the game. And yeah, I think with Tattle, she's not as annoying. Well, she's less annoying than Navi, because she just says, "Hey, listen." But with Tattle, she's got this sort of like bell sound effect whenever she has a notification or some advice to help with Link. And yeah, I think, yeah, she's okay. She's not. I think for me, she's not as similar to with the King of Red Lions. She's not as memorable as a lot of the other characters or other companions. So yeah, for number 7 is Tree. Now, I would say that this is where the companions start to get better, and they have their own sort of personalities and somewhat relevance to the plot. Because with Tree, she, along with the other um, members of her race. They help, so they basically help close the rifts so that Null doesn't escape. And she's a really cool companion for Zelda. And I think with Tree, I do really like how she can use her abilities to either hold objects or give Zelda the tree rod or the tri rod, and that gives her the ability to create duplicates of everything she scans. And yeah, I think tree or try, depending on who you ask, it's kind of got that sort of like same dilemma as Fee, where people would call her Fee or Fi. And yeah, with tree, for me it kind of like alternates between tree or try. That's how that's me personally. And I think with tree, similar to Tattle, there are stakes that goes with her because you want to try and help her close all the rifts so that Null doesn't escape from his prison and just take over the world by opening multiple rifts and just consuming the whole world into darkness. So yeah, I really do like Tree, and I think she's a good companion to Zelda, and I think she's a really good character as well. So yeah, for number 6 is Linebeck. Now Linebeck, I would say I would say he's a really big fan favorite in the Zelda community because of how much he grows as a character, and I would say he's one of the few characters. I would say all the few companions that does have some sort of character arc, because when you first meet him in the Temple of the Ocean King, he's quite arrogant, quite up himself, because he's a guy who just wants to try and find treasure, and that's a whole lot of his personality. He just wants to find treasure, and he's basically just helping Link get from island to island, similar to the King of the Lions in the Wind Waker. But with Linebeck, I do like his character arc, and I do like how when he first is told about the wish, he springs into action, and you've got an infamous scene where Linebeck just jumps into action. And then when you compare that to the very end of the game, he wishes for his boat back, and that's a really cool character arc. And I think I think that what makes no character. I think that what makes Linebeck an interesting and quite deep character, just because of how he could have all the treasure in the world, but he couldn't get his ship back because Bellum destroyed it. Or well, the ghost ship destroyed it, but that was because of Bellum. And yeah, it's a really cool character arc, and I think he's such a really cool character. Also, his theme is one of the best themes of any character in the game, and he's just a really cool character. So yeah, for number 5 is Ciela. Now, when compared to the other fairy characters, so like Tattle and Navi, I would say that Celia is the best one, or the best fairy companion that you get, mainly because she's actually relevant. Well, it's not like Tattle was relevant, because she was, and Navi was somewhat relevant to the story, but I think throughout the entire story of Phantom Hourglass, Celia is important because when you first meet her, she has lost all her memories, and then around the halfway point, when you beat the Temple of Courage, she gains back her memories, and she remembers that she's the Fairy of Courage, and then she helps you along with the fairies of power and wisdom to help you locate the ghost ship. And then at the very end of the game, she finds out that she's not only the Fairy of Courage, but also the Fairy of Time, and she helps you give orbs that can stop time for a few seconds, and that's really cool. And she's just so useful, and she's really useful throughout the entire game, but just because of how she wants to find her memories, and then she finds out about her true inheritance, and she just helps you within the final fight of the game. And when you compare that to Tattle or Navi, they're not as useful. They just help you uh, target onto enemies, because I think that's how how Nintendo were able to do it. I think I could be wrong, um, but with Celia, she's just very very useful throughout the whole course of Phantom Hourglass, and yeah, I think she's just the most useful fairy companion in the whole series when you compare her to Navi and Tattle. So yeah, for number 4 is Eslo. Now this with Eslo, I do like how he he's sort of responsible for the whole events of the Minish Cap, and then probably by proxy the events of Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures, because he made a cap that his apprentice Vati took and became the Wind Mage, or an evil Wind Mage, and he made Eslo a cap, or he turned him into a cap, and yeah, I think that's kind of like all. I think with Eslo, he's quite an interesting character because, like with a lot of other characters, he helps you explore the world, and he tells you about some of the lore. A lot about the Picori, because he is also a Picori himself, and I think with him being your hat, that's an interesting. So I think that's an interesting thing to do, because when you think of Link's outfits, or his armor that you see him wear, it's just green tunic with a cap, or he's playing Breath of the Wild, which is the kingdom, a blue tunic. But with his cap, I think that's really cool, because you don't really often. No, well, you do notice Link's cap, but it's just there. But with Eslo, I think he's a really good person or good companion to have as a sort of like part of your clothing, because you don't really get that with other companions in other games. The only one I can think of that comes is pretty much the same thing but different is Cappy from Mario Odyssey, and that's really cool. Just giving a character a part of your clothing and letting them talk to you. That's so really cool, and they just help you throughout the game. And I do like how Eslo gives you the power to shrink to the size of a Minish, so that's really cool as well. And yeah, I think he's just an enjoyable companion. So yeah, for number 3 is Princess Zelda. Now, with Zelda, this is mainly from Spirit Tracks, and I think she's a really cool companion. I think she's a really shake up to the whole companion formula, because this is the first game where Zelda is a interactive player, and that you do get to play as her in some sections, and I think that what makes it interesting, because she can possess phantoms, and she can become any of the different phantoms you see throughout the course of Spirit Tracks, whether that's a regular one, the torch one with the flaming swords, the one that can warp, the one that can turn into a giant ball when walking, and yeah, I think Zelda is really cool, and I do like how she sort of starts the game when she's separated from her, when her soul is separated from her body. She's kind of like you've got like very infamous scene where Zelda learns about what the enemy is going to use with her body, and you've got that infamous scene of just her shrieking, and yeah, and then you've got that other scene towards the end of the game where she's trying to regain her body, but then she uses her sacred power to re-emerge both her soul and her body, and that's really cool. And I think she's a really cool character, and I think she's a cool person to interact with throughout the course of the game. So yeah, for number 2 is Minna. Now with Minna, I think she's kind of similar to Eslo in the sense that both of them have been cursed. You could say that with Zelda as well, but that's more of a with Chancellor Cole, he more separated her body from her spirit, and you could say that there's some sort of curse, but I think there's more of a separation spell more than a curse spell. And with Minna, I think similar to Linebeck, she's one of the few Zelda characters you see that actually goes through a character arc. So when you first meet her, she's kind of cocky and she doesn't really care. about Link, and then throughout the game, she starts to understand and learn more about Link and everyone else in Hyrule, and then you've got that scene where she is brought out into the world of the light, and she is sort of poisoned, sort of, because um, the light spirit sort of attacks her, because Zant kind of forces her to be in engulfed in light. And you kind of got that part of the game where she's like begging Link to take her to see Zelda, and with that really infamous like Minder's Lament, I think that's what the song for it is called. And yeah, and I do like how she just sacrifices herself at the end of the game to kind of like to try and stop Gandalf. And then when you see her true form, it's really cool, and I think it's a really cool design. And yeah, I think Minder is a very cool character, and she's one of the few characters that has a really cool character arc. So yeah. And for number one is Fee. Now Fee is a really one of my all time favorite companion, because she is pretty much in every single Zelda game that you see or if you've played. Because in Skyward Sword, she is the goddess or she's the spirit of the goddess sword, and throughout the halfway point where you have to try and find the three sacred flames so that you can temper it and make it better, it becomes the Master Sword, and that really puts every other Zelda game that does use the Master Sword into a new sort of light. Because if you played Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, those games will feature Fee, but not in a major role. And it still feels really cool that even though Fee doesn't appear in any of those games, she does get a sort of cameo a bit of sorts in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. She will still be with every version of the hero that draws the Master Sword to fight evil. And I do like how her music is kind of similar to how Minder's character arc works, as well as Linebeck's, but different in the sense that with Linebeck and Minder, they basically respect Link a whole lot more along their journey when you compare them to like the beginning of the game when compared to the end. And it's kind of similar like that with Fee, but with her music, because when you first meet her, she has like flute accompanying her for a theme, and then at the very end of the game you've got pianos, and I think that's a really cool way of showing how much Fee has grown as a character, because with the flutes and with her first introduction, that's more I would say robotic and sort of a bit more mysterious to us, because we don't know who this character is. And then by the very end, it's mainly pianos, and to me that feels more less mysterious and more human and more calming, because Fee has been with us throughout that whole journey of Skyward Sword, and this is the last time we'll be getting to see her in terms of the game. And we did get to see her in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, only if it is like the shimmering of the Master Sword. But I do just like how she kind of like goes from someone who just wants to help Link to someone she can call a friend, and at the end she says thank you to him, and just because I would say that they've both helped each other, with Link helping Fee. Fee has understood the human spirit, and with Fee helping Link, she's helped him to fulfill his destiny as the chosen hero of the goddess. And that's just a really cool thing that you don't get to see a whole lot in other games. So yeah, so that's been me ranking all of the Zelda companions from worst to best. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.